Good afternoon again, and welcome back, Realty Pros, to another week of Porterhouse Realty Talks. As always, we are elated to have you guys on here. We know that you could be anywhere else at 12:30 on a Thursday, but you're here with us. Thursdays, we endeavor to meet on a regular basis to talk about all things real estate. It is imperative that we stay connected. We do everything necessary to connect with you guys. We want you to be connected to your Porterhouse family, to, of course, the brokerage, but then all of the real estate related topics. So we go through different cycles and series. In this one, we've been talking about open houses. Last week, we had the pleasure to have somebody do me a favor and mute. It sounds like Kerma might be unmuted.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. There you go, Kerma. And I think Darlene too. There you go. We want you guys to unmute yourself when you're ready to give some insight and some feedback, but for the sake of, just the audio feedback, keep yourself muted until you're ready to contribute to the conversation. But back to what we were saying, Angela did such a phenomenal job last week, guys, in talking about open houses. I probably was the first to watch the video. So the video replay, it is on YouTube. So if you guys go to YouTube, watch the video from last week, watch the videos from weeks prior to that, because there's so much insight and there's so much meat still on that bone. So we are going to just do a quick overview because there were so many different amazing points shared. If there was anybody that's currently on the line that was on the training last week, before we get into today's maximizing open houses, just tell us a few things that you learned last week. And let me take a look and see who's joined us thus far, in case I got to call on some of you guys. I don't want you to be shy. So come on and participate. What did you remember from Angela's training last week in maximizing open houses? And Angela, if you have to give them a hint, that's okay.
Well, I'm waiting for some of them to chime in because they mentioned earlier that they had some takeaways. So I think they're ready.
Well, Ms. Porter, can you hear me?
I can.
Well, I can tell you a couple of takeaways that I had after doing this and working closely with Angela. And it's something that I think you said a while back, and it was that it's not the market, it's the marketing. And one of the things that I saw very clearly was really how she marketed the open house, all the prep that she did, making sure that the signs were out, going maybe even door to door, talking to people, all the little things that, made people realize that, A, there was an open house and that they could come to. And we had people that came just because they saw the balloons, and, something as small as that. So things that you might take for granted really can be a big thing. And then also once we got to the open house, having, everything prepared and having everything set up, from the paperwork showing the information about the property to being able to record and to be able to capture the information of the people who came by, the people who registered, the people who, stopped by, whether it was neighbors or people who came with an agent or just by themselves. So all of those things, I saw how they really came into play. And then to have information that you going forward where you have leads from people that maybe that particular property wasn't what they were looking for, but they, you have the leads. So when you can get back in contact with them and maybe, be able to schedule time when you can sit down and maybe find a property that does fit what they're looking for. So all those things are the things that came into play. And I was able to see it up close and personal on how she actually did it. So there was a method to it. She was very, intentional. And I think it's a way that we have a system that really works. So that's what I saw.
Excellent, Kerman. Great contribution. Thank you for adding that. Who else on the line can tell us a little bit about the preparation? D, I see you typed into the chat, preparation is key. And yes, it is. Tell us some of the things that you recall from Angela's training last week in preparing for her open house.
So was that directed at me, Miss Jasmine?
Yes, it is, Dee. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I saw, well, I came a little later, but what we did was to go by Angela's open house last weekend and to note how many signs were out to lead people to the space, to the place, that there were balloons everywhere. The signs were like coming from different directions, actually taking you to the open house, which is why we went. We were like, whose is this? I wonder if this is Angela's. But we just kept following the signs down the street because we happened to be in the neighborhood. And, you know, of course, came up to the Porterhouse sign. And so that was really drawing, because there were other open houses going on in the neighborhood, and they weren't as there wasn't as much information out about them. So you might not have seen them because there was like just one sign. So one of the things we noted was the signs again, and Carmen said this, and the balloons that help people to see them. The other thing that I got from the talk last week was doing the door knocking ahead of time, which I think Herman may have mentioned as well, so that the neighbors know that the open house is going on. And then the other thing was the way that you draw people in with the sign-in registration, the little clipboards, the questions that you ask them so that they will actually participate in the open house and be there. And then the other prep was actually making sure that you have, you know, snacks and water because it's so warm. And those were the things that I really noticed for the preparation. I was also struck by how Angela doesn't actually stop the open house until everybody's gone, because we were there after 3. The open house is supposed to be from 1 to 3. We were going through the neighborhood after 3, and my colleague was saying, well, maybe it's over. And I said, no, the signs are still out. Somebody's got her locked up in there. Otherwise the signs would be gone. So let's just go see what's going on. And we walked in and 2 people were walking out and somebody came in right behind us. And it was well after 3 o'clock. So I just really appreciated, you know, seeing how Angela works her open houses.
Excellent. Excellent contribution. Anybody else? And I'm really excited about this because there were so many wonderful things that Angela shared. And, you know, my video was off, but I was in the background cheering. And I'm like, that's awesome, Angela. That's right. I'm hoping that everybody's taking notes, guys, because we're going to build on this and we're going to maximize it. Every single thing that Angela has shared, all of the things that are in brokerment for you guys, we want you to own them. So we want you to take them as your own and just take it to the next level. Grab hold of it, maximize it, as we're talking about, because the key is not only are you going to sell your listing by taking all these things into account, you're going to get more listings as a result. You're going to get more referrals as a result. So everything that we're talking about, the goal is to have your seller to say, oh my gosh, you know, Dee, you did such a great job of selling my listing. I have a colleague who needs to sell their home. Let me connect them with you. You want the neighbors to say, oh my gosh, that agent, she was so diligent in everything that I could witness her doing. When I'm ready to sell my house, I want to give her a call. So let's just begin with the end in mind as we kind of echo some of the sentiments that we heard last week. And we're just going to build on some of those concepts. Okay, guys? All right. So one of the things that I wanted to share with us, this is something that I love to do for open houses, and I want for us to embrace this. Your open house is an event, right? So it's not just an open house. You know how you can think about, you know, I don't know, a Halloween party or a Christmas party or whatever type of party that has a big theme and you're inviting people out because it's a very festive event. So too should your open house be. Okay. And when you think about the neighbors in the community, we've talked about door knocking, and we're going to talk about door knocking even more. And we're going to go down to the most finite point in terms of who, when, where, and why you should be door knocking. But I want for us really to maximize the neighbors that are within the same subdivision. So much so to before your open house, let's say by chance your open house is from 12 to 3. We want you guys to maximize that 11 o'clock hour. So really you plan for 11 to 3, but from 11 to 12, make those neighbors feel special. Invite those neighbors out to join you in advance of the open house so they feel like they have a special exclusive premiere invitation to the open house, and it's just for the neighbors that are in that subdivision so that they can come out, they can tour the property, as Angela was sharing with you last week, to see how the property compares to theirs. If they want some insight as to the equity position in their homes, they can really give you some feedback. But the whole idea there is to connect with the neighbors in a more personal way and make them feel special, right? So we talked about flyers, and flyers are necessary for your open house. I'm just going to expand that a little bit more and talk about invitations, because for your open house, as we said, this is an event. So in addition to your flyer, you guys want to send out invitations. And when you go to your neighbors' houses, have an invitation in your hand. Hey, I just wanted to give you an exclusive invitation. And this is just for you for the first hour before the open house begins. I just want to host you guys, and you have hors d'oeuvres or whatever it is that you have there for the neighbors, but really rub elbows with them and have conversations about the neighborhood. Have conversations about their idea of the equity in their property and what properties are selling for and what they think they can get for their home. And if they've thought about selling it, or if they know anybody that's looked at moving into the neighborhood, you will be able to find out so much information from neighbors. It'll really blow your mind. So embrace it. I know in real estate, we have this term called nosy Nellies, if you will, when it comes to neighbors and open houses. But I want you to use that as a positive and really grab hold of the benefit that's provided to you by each and every person that lives in that subdivision, because they know their property. Oftentimes they know the owners. They may have known 2 or 3 owners back. Maybe they lived there when the property was built, and you really can connect with them on a deeper level. And your open house is a segue into deeper conversation. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions about that before we move on? All right, let's.
Jasmine, I just want to chime in quickly. On one of my listings, we did the 1 hour exclusive neighbor invite. So the door knocking, I think it was that Thursday, was to invite the neighbors, and it was very beneficial because they sometimes they feel like, oh, I'm the nosy neighbor, but they felt welcome. They came, and we didn't talk too much about their property during the 1 hour they were there, but we're able to get appointments with them. Some of them got appointments with us after the open house for us to come and take a tour of their home. So I think it's definitely beneficial to do that exclusive open for the next.
That is excellent, guys. That's exactly the point of what it is that we're talking about. You want those neighbors to feel welcome, because again, in real estate, the neighbors, they will feel like they're, oh, I'm just being nosy. I already live around here. If I'm there, I'm going to feel like uncomfortable. So I really don't want to put my name down, because then she'll know, oh, I'm not actually a qualified buyer. I'm just a neighbor. So we've really got to erase that stigma, and we've really got to place the value where it is on those neighbors as a true source and a resource, right? Because whether they know somebody that wants to move into the community, or if they can give you more insight on the property that you're selling, or now you become a resource to them, like Angela said, when they're ready to sell the property, we really have to be intentional about making sure that that stigma is gone and we place the value on those neighbors. So this 1 hour before the open house starts, that exclusive invitation for those neighbors, it's really going to kind of break the ice, and it'll put you before them as a resource, because at the end of the day, that's all you can ask for. Of course, you want the listing, but if they're not ready to sell, what you want is a commitment for them to allow you to be a resource in the event that they need any help, or if they know anybody that has current real estate needs. So just really take advantage of that, guys. Have those conversations, do that early door knocking, get those invitations out for the neighbors. And listen, when we're talking about your hors d'oeuvres, it doesn't have to be a whole spread, or it could be as little or as much as you want it to be. But the intentionality behind it is that that specified amount of time is just for those people in that subdivision. And the 9 times out of 10, if they are available, you let them know it's there, it's for them. There's going to be soft music, there's going to be hors d'oeuvres, and you're going to be hosting them specifically. Many of them will come. Okay. And we've talked about this on our establishing appointments and all of these things that we do that are income generating activities. So Angela hit the nail on the head with regards to, you were able to get appointments with those neighbors to then come and take a look at their properties, to give them market analysis for their homes. And that is the point of all of this. So just keep those things in mind when you are considering maximizing every opportunity afforded to you from an open house. This will open a lot of doors. Does anybody have any other thoughts, questions, or key takeaways before we move on? All right, we'll continue.
I have something.
Sure.
It took me a minute to get over there. It's also, I guess, a good way for you to talk to, say, homeowners and maybe like throw out, come over and, if you're thinking about selling your house, or you want an idea of how your home should present, given, if in the future you think about selling. So I think that would be a good way for them to come in and kind of, see what the house looks like, how it's presented. And then they can go home and say, okay, well, I need to do this, 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 and this, if they're thinking of selling their house.
Very well stated, Darlene. Excellent. I see your question, D'Amica, and that's a wonderful question. D'Amica said, what do you do when you're in an area that's full of renters? Do we do the same thing? That may not be a deciding factor for the owner. Should we still invite them? I'm going to let you guys take a stab at that, because to me, it's a very exciting question because it's loaded with opportunity, but I want to know what you guys think before I answer that question. Can you guys see D'Amica's question on the screen? What do you think? An area full of renters. We're talking about inviting all of the neighbors to the open house for a 1-hour exclusive beforehand. Should you invite those renters? All right, you're shy for the moment, so I'm going to go ahead and jump in. Angela, I see you've unmuted yourself. What do you think?
I was just going to say, the whole point of door knocking, we're not just looking for sellers. We're looking for any prospects. Those may be people who want to buy, who want to sell, or know someone who wants to. So any contact that we make, having an open house and having a listing gives you an excuse to talk to someone. Sometimes we're intimidated when we knock on a door where we don't have a listing, because they're thinking, why are they here? But when you have a listing, it makes it so much easier, whether it's a neighborhood with renters. They may know someone, they may be interested in no longer renting and want to purchase that property or another property. So definitely everyone should be approached and treated as a potential prospect, regardless of where your listing is or, what their current situation is. They may be someone who you work with later on down the road, who you help prepare to get into a position where they can purchase.
Absolutely. I'm going to take it a step further, guys. Listen, you're prospecting for business. You're building your book of business and your pipeline, and that's for listers, that's listings for buyers, that's for, long-term leases. And let me ask you this question. If they're renting a property and they're paying likely more than they would if it's a mortgage, do you think that you'll be a valued resource and an asset to them if you provide them with some material on, how much do you think your mortgage would be on this? They can be paying rent. Maybe their rent's $2,400, but their mortgage would only be $1,800. Now, do you think that the lights would come on for some of those prospective buyers who you're calling renters, but they're prospects at that point, because you already know they're interested? Number one, they're interested in a home because they're renting in a community that has homes. So they already have the vision for it. But now you just show them what that pathway is. So your marketing approach to them is going to be slightly different, but it needs to be intentional, because renters are a pool of clients that are far more abundant than buyers that are actively looking to buy, and than your homeowners that actively own. So renters are abundant. Let me just say that again. Renters are abundant. And most of your renters can be converted into buyers. And most of those buyers will one day be sellers. So you have a 3-part opportunity in that rental client. So you really want to take advantage of those. Okay. So we're gonna talk as we get a couple screens up about some of the demographics and when and why, and just kind of really targeting some of these audiences. Great question there, D'Amica. Great insight. I saw your message in the chat, D, and great insight as well, Angela. Okay, so some of the things we won't spend a lot of time on at all because they're echoes from last week, but some of these things we're going to introduce to some of you, and we're going to remind for others of you with regards to some of the strategies, and these are the marketing aspects. Angela already went through in such great detail preparing for your open house and all the things you need to do the day of. Let's highlight and illuminate some more of these marketing strategies that we can take full advantage of, guys. So for your open house, your Facebook ads with your targeted zip codes. This is something that we should be doing for every one of our open houses. When you have an open house, 123 Main Street, Upper Marlboro, Maryland, 20774, you should be going on Facebook, and whether you spend $10, $20, $30 for an ad, you go on there, you create the ad, and you pull the radius out as far wide or narrow as you want it to go. And that, if I were you, I would do it up to maybe 5 miles out so that you're able to gather people that are going to be familiar with that area. And your Facebook ad, you're going to target people in those specific zip codes or within a radius that are now going to see your marketing information for your open house. Okay. So this is going to be on a platform that most people have, Facebook, and they're going to do all of the hard work for you. You just take your 15 minutes to create your ad and watch Facebook magic work. Okay. You can do the exact same thing with Instagram. I'm not an Instagram pro, but I know that some of you are. And when you go to YouTube, you can find out how to do this for each one of those platforms. But let's utilize the technology, guys. Utilize the social media so that you're able to gather so many more leads from your open houses. Because when you're some sellers, are going to leave like we advise them to for open houses. But even if they do, many people have cameras. And when they see that, oh, this open house was very well attended, I see how well a job they did. They had people coming left and right. Does that look good for you as an agent? I'll say so. It looks very good for you as an agent. So let's just exploit these opportunities, guys. Also, Facebook events. When you have an open house, everybody should know about your open house. So on Facebook, you go on there, you create an event. And again, remember, this is a festive event. It's an actual event. So you're going to make a big deal out of it, and you're going to ring that bell everywhere. So Facebook events should have your open house listed for the day and time, whether there be multiple open houses or one Facebook event, it should be there so that people can see and know exactly what's going on. Your direct mail pieces, we know about this. What you want to do is with your open house direct mail pieces, it should say open house and invitation, right? So it's a half page. It's not a whole page, just like your flyer would be, but it's an open house announcement along with a personal invitation so that those are going out to at least 200. If you can get up to 500 homes around your open house, that's even better. But a minimum of 200 homes around your open house should be receiving these direct mail pieces well in advance of your open house so that they have an invitation to come out and join you, okay? And for those neighbors, what are you going to put on there when you have your open house invitation and it's for those neighbors? And the hint is that we just talked about it a slide back. It's for people within the subdivision and it's an invitation. So what are you going to put on that flyer as well? Your 1 hour exclusive. And I love last week that Angela was talking about the QR code, guys, because you literally can go to QR code creator, all of the information that you want to include directly in your open house, including your 1 hour exclusive for all the neighbors in the subdivision. you include it all there and you send it out to them so that when they receive that invitation, they scan the QR code and now they have all of the property information. They have the specifics on the open house and the segment of time that's specific to them, that 1 hour exclusive. And all of this they're receiving from a powerful marketing tool that has a QR code attached to it. Okay. So those invitations, some of them, of course, you're going to mail out, but you want to order those marketing pieces so that you have some to take with you to properties. Yes, your flyers are very powerful, but I really appreciate the invitation aspect even more when it comes to making people feel welcome and making people feel like, oh, this is very specific to them. So door knock with those invitations in hand also, and pass those out to people so that they feel like they were thought about, they feel like they're invited, and you're door knocking these neighborhoods, as we've stated before, in advance of your open house. If your open house is on Saturday, you're door knocking Thursday and Friday and Saturday morning, right? And we talked about this, Angela talked about it last week. Your open house, you want to make sure that you have multiple Realty Pro colleagues who are doing this with you. So I promise you, there are a number of people that will be happy to do door knocking with you, that will be happy to do your open house with you. As long as you give people notice, people want to go out and lead generate. People want to have group activities where they can actually put into practice a lot of the things that we're learning here on Porterhouse Realty Talk. So reach out to your colleagues, give them advance notice, schedule your door knocking, pass out those invitations, guys, and collect that information. Schedule those appointments, because some of those people will allow you to come back and do a market analysis of their property. Okay. We've already talked about number 5, inviting those neighbors out beforehand. That is so crucial to just being a segue into further conversation with them. And I love how Angela said last week, for some of them, when you knock on their doors, I like the part where you said, oh, I haven't seen a colonial in this neighborhood. What does yours look like? Do you have any updates? Why is that so important, guys? Because people love to talk about what they've done. They love, if they have taken pride in their home, and many of your homeowners will and have, they would love for the pride of home ownership to shine through. And when you're complimenting their home and they know that you have market insight on other homes, now they want to know what you think about their home. Now they want to be able to showcase what it is that they've done, whatever investments they've made in their home. So great segue into further connection. I see we have quite a number of messages in the chat. So before I continue, I'll go to the chat to see if there's anything that needs to be added. Excellent. QR code for the lead capture. Definitely. All right, I see Anastasia. Yes, Eventbrite as well. You're ahead of us. That's awesome. That's number 10. Eventbrite as well. It will push it out to Google and in a wider search. Definitely. Eventbrite. You want to make sure, again, this is a big event, your open house. So you're going to use each one of these social media platforms, each one of these digital marketing strategies that are going to allow these platforms to syndicate your information out to all of their other users. Because at the end of the day, our goal is going to be the widest exposure possible to maximize that open house. Okay. And Dee, I see your comment too with regards to the neighbors. If they haven't done anything, then they're going to start thinking about it. Yeah, that's very true. They found out that everybody in the neighborhood had upgrades and updates, and they're the only ones that haven't. They will start thinking about it. Great feedback there, guys. HomeSnap Pro ads. When you're a member of HomeSnap Pro, you know they have multiple platforms and venues for marketing, and all you do is choose your budget and they do everything for you. So when you have a new listing and you have an open house, you should be doing those HomeSnap Pro ads. Utilize them. They create the custom marketing pieces for you, for your open house, for your listing, for your just listed and just sold. They're going to do all of those things for you on your HomeSnap Pro. You choose the platform. So you choose whether whatever your marketing budget is for that property, you choose whether you want it to go to, a third of it to go to Facebook, a third to go to Google, to Waze, or all of the other platforms that they market to for you. But we're maximizing the exposure to the open house so that we can get the most out of it for both your client and yourself. A properly done open house can literally build your book of business, and it really can help to snowball your real estate career. So we are very much excited about this topic, and Mr. Porter will tell you, this was one of the things that in the very beginning of my real estate career, I was very, very passionate about, and did open houses probably every other weekend, and got so much business from it because it's really a great resource for you guys. Number 7, Facebook Live, your virtual open house tour, right? Well, some people are going to be able to come to the open house in person, and we live in a virtual world now. So some people may not be able to come in person, but wouldn't they like to see a virtual open house? So Facebook Live, remember, this is an event. So you're going to schedule this event. You're going to schedule it a week in advance. You're going to schedule it 2 weeks in advance. If you only have a few days, I would still say schedule it, but the more time you have to plan it, the better. But schedule it so that you go live at a certain time. And if I were you, I will schedule to go live either just before or just after you've hosted the neighbors, so that you're walking through and you're letting all the other people know, hey, my open house is about to start. Here's your live preview. You have a virtual tour of the open house. Here are all the details. This time block was just for you. So whether that's 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 30 minutes, you've got to decide what works well for you. And that's one of the other reasons why you want to make sure that you have a team of Realty pros that are working with you also, so that one person can be doing the Facebook Live tour while you're doing something else, and you guys are working together as a team to maximize your open house there, so that you can get the maximum leads and exposure and all of those things. And then it just looks excellent to your client to see your diligence in doing all of these things to market their property. All right. Email marketing campaigns. So targets from your farm area. You guys still have constant contact. You also have Boomtown, which is amazing. You guys should be emailing everybody that you know about this open house. So everybody that's in your contact list, once you've created that flyer and that marketing piece, they should be getting an email invitation. Hey, just listed. Here's my new listing. Here's an open house. Here's an invitation to my new listing. Everybody that you know that you have an email for, they should be receiving this open house information. So let's make sure that we connect to the people that are within our book of business and send those invites out to them as well. Okay. Another thing, Evites. Evites is a platform that you can use, and it works so very well. And I want for you to take notes, because oftentimes there are going to be a lot of people that you come into contact with that are renters, and you say, well, what type of activities should I invite these renters to? All of your open houses, every last one of them. All of your home buyer seminars, every last one of them. Any type of informational session where you can teach them what that path and process is to home ownership, because you want to make sure you give them a vision and then you show them how to walk that process out. So sending out those Evites, it works very much like the personal invitation that you're doing to the neighbors, because now they feel like you personally thought about them, and they feel like they're personally invited to something that is, that you thought about, not just them, but you've thought about them in particular for, opposed to, or let's say in addition to, a broader marketing piece that's for just, everybody. This one, the Evite, creates a more personal touch also. Okay. Does anybody have any questions or anything about that? All right, Anastasia, you got us. Number 10, Eventbrite. Eventbrite, guys, these are free resources that will allow for you to market your open house and make it a grand, just a whole spectacle out of this event like it should be, because it's your open house and you're maximizing this opportunity. And when you market your open house like this, guys, can you think of the amount of buyer leads that you're going to be able to get from this? Listing leads that you're going to be able to get from it? For the neighbors, I love how Angela said, even when she's putting out her yard signs, wherever she puts a yard, not an open house sign, she's using that as an opportunity to go and door knock that particular neighbor. I love every single thing that you shared about just maximizing each one of these opportunities. And each of these items on this page are no different, guys. You want to maximize this opportunity. When you and one of your colleagues has a listing, there are so many things that you can do to really either jumpstart your real estate business or to progress and propel your real estate business to the next level. Because if you do all of these things, you're going to have so many leads to filter through. You're going to be spending the next week just following up with leads. Okay. So let's just take full advantage of these marketing opportunities for open houses. I'll take a pause before we go on to the next page to hear some of your thoughts and your insight. And I see we have another message in the chat. That's a great question, Dee. If you're closing on a purchase, how do you use that to market your expertise and experience? We're actually going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that on the next slide. So excellent question. Does anybody else have any other questions, thoughts, or comments before we progress to the next slide? All right, we'll continue. Feel free to drop it in the chat, unmute yourself, raise your hand, or do whatever you need to do to contribute, guys. All right. We'll go back. Didn't mean to go that far. All right. So more open house marketing strategies. So we talked about door knocking, but let's just define door knocking a little bit more. Because when we're considering door knocking, we want to be very intentional. We want to scout out these communities, right? If my listing is, let's say by chance, Angela, take your listing, wherever your listing is, you should be able to look at a map, whether it's on Google Maps or on your computer or riding through the communities, and you should be able to kind of point out subdivisions that are close to your listing. Why is that necessary? Well, a couple of you already have somewhat of the insight when D'Amica, you asked about renters. You see that very first one. You're considering an open house. Let's just say by chance, your listing is a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bathroom, single family home. Let's just say by chance, it's maybe, $550,000 to a $650,000 community. Where do I need to door knock in addition to that subdivision to invite the neighbors? What other opportunities do I have to maximize this open house? What potential either demographics or what potential, client base or customer base would benefit from information on this open house that I'm sharing with them? Well, I'm glad you asked, because you want to consider move-up communities, guys. When you're listing a condo, you need to be going to apartments, right? Because people that are in apartments, they already can conceptualize a condo, because your condo style apartments are those that are going to speak to them most. And from condos to townhouses, most people in those levels, they're looking to scale up at some point. They're looking to move up at some point. And if your property is the next level up for that community, then those are the people that you need to go to. And your marketing piece needs to say something to the effect of, for this amount, you could own this house, right? So not necessarily, just speaking to the maybe $550,000 for the listing, but for this amount, you could own this house. So maybe that's only, $3,400 a month or $3,200 a month. And if they're already paying, $2,900 a month in rent, or $3,200 a month in rent, then do you think that'll speak to them and make them think, I'm paying for this rent, but I could own that property for this amount? I'm paying for an apartment or a condo or even a townhouse, but I could own that single family home for that amount, right? So just think like the customer, right? At some point or another, we all either have been home buyers or will be home buyers. If you're a part of Porterhouse and you have not at least bought your own home yet, you need to give Mr. Porter and I a call, because you need to be your first client. We're in real estate and we believe in real estate. We don't just help other people to buy and sell homes. We buy and sell our own as well, including investment property. So we absolutely believe in what it is that we do. So from that perspective, You want to help other people to get into real estate. So Damika, this goes to your question for renters. You're going to apartment communities. If you're selling a condo, where do you need to go and door knock? Where do you need to pass out your flyers? Where do you need to pass out your invitations? You need to be going to apartments because you're selling an apartment style condo. And what people do you think would have the most seamless transition into that type of structure? People who are paying a similar amount for an apartment that they don't yet own. So let's think in terms of move-up communities, right? You have a beautiful townhome. You want to share this beautiful townhome. In addition to your 1 hour exclusive where you're inviting everybody in the subdivision to this open house, who else do you need to go and invite to that open house? What about nearby condos? You're selling a townhouse. They have condos. They're going to need to transition from an apartment style condo into a townhouse at some point. And that's a natural progression for people. People can conceptualize that it's not a huge leap. It's a natural progression. So let's consider being strategic in our door knocking and mapping out these communities so that when you guys are going out in teams, you're very intentional with where you're door knocking and what the demographic is there, because you know that the product that you have or the listing that you have on the market is a natural progression from their community, okay? If you have a single family home, where do you need to door knock? In addition to the subdivision, everything is in addition to the subdivision, right? Because you have multiple targets for door knocking. You have multiple days of door knocking. So once you've gotten past your subdivision, now you have a single family home, you're gonna find the local townhome communities. Those townhome communities, they may have 500 townhomes in there. Those are going to be great opportunities to sell your single family home to, because guess what, guys? Families expand. Most of your first time home buyers, they are buying your townhomes from that perspective. But guess what? They have growing families. They have changing and evolving needs. And that's just a part of human life. So them being able to transition and move up from a townhome to a single family home, it's almost a no-brainer in that that's what their next step would need to be, right? So we're being very intentional and we're targeting our audience so that we're reaching out to people that have a need for what it is that you're selling or listing there, okay? You say, okay, well, all of that's fine and well. I hear what you're saying, Jasmine, but now I have a luxury single family home. Where do I go to market for that? Well, again, everything is in addition to that subdivision. If you're selling a luxury single family home, these are going to be people who are scaling up. You're going to go to a community that would be kind of a seamless transition. If now you're selling your home, it's $850,000. Where are your local communities that are $550,000, $650,000? These are also single family homes, but it will be a natural progression for people who've advanced in their careers, advanced in their lifestyle or family size, income, and now they have the ability to transition and to scale up into a luxury single family home, okay? So these are some of the considerations. So when we're talking about door knocking is such a broad term, and I'm excited to do a number of different deeper trainings into what those conversations need to look like, what information you need to provide. But let's be very targeted and specific with who we're reaching out to for this door knocking for our open houses, and understand the mindset behind why it makes sense to do it this way, okay? You can target these homes that you're going to be door knocking by price point, by size, by the bedroom bathroom ratio, right? You know that if you're selling a listing, 5 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms, it probably won't make sense to go to another community that has 6 bedroom, 5.5 bathroom, you know what I mean? Or, if you're selling unless it's well, I won't get ahead of myself because that's point number 2. But you get the point that I'm making. Some people, when they need to expand, you're helping them to step up, because the topic on this page is your move up communities. So if you're helping them to move up into your listing, you need to consider the areas that will be a natural progression when stepping up to the next level in order to get to your listing, okay? So consider those things. Then next, of course, We have various stages and seasons in our lives. And when you're growing and you have an expanding family, you know, some people, their family dynamics are going to change multiple times throughout life. But guess what? If we're fortunate enough to live long enough, then all of us will get to a point where we're seniors, and now our consideration will be different. So you want to consider when you're selling your listing, what demographic does this appeal to most? So I know how to approach my marketing strategy. So if I'm looking to list, or if I'm listing, you know, a single level rambler or rancher, then maybe I'm not going to an apartment community or a condo community or a townhome community per se. Maybe I'm going to my luxury single family homes, because now I know those people have ascended to a point in their career and their lifestyles, and they're likely going to be more mature and seasoned in age, and they will possibly have a consideration of downsizing at some point, because guess what? Now they've enjoyed themselves, they've raised their families, the kids have moved out, you know, they've had multiple transitions, but now maybe they're 55 and older and they want to consider something that's single level. Something, you know, a rambler with a basement, a rancher with a basement, something that's, you know, maybe it doesn't have a basement, maybe it's all on one level with a huge yard, but whatever the case is, we're considering this because people will oftentimes go from your luxury single family homes and they'll downsize into communities that have a one level or one level with a basement. So when you're considering your door knocking approach and who you should target for your door knocking, here is some food for thought so that you guys can think strategically with regards to the surrounding areas and why it would be a good idea to approach your door knocking from that perspective. And I have said a mouthful, so I'm going to take a pause for a minute and hear your thoughts, questions, or insight before I go to number 3. And that's very much self-explanatory. I see we have one comment in the chat there. Can you address the no soliciting notices and scripts? I'm going to say something kind of tongue-in-cheek there. Mr. Porter and I used to say, when it says no soliciting, that means less competition. It's not for me. And that is very much said tongue-in-cheek. You want to consider, if the community says no soliciting, I have 2 thoughts about this, right? You want to make sure you're following whatever the local ordinances says. So if it says that you can't come and door knock in the community, then you don't want to come and door knock in certain communities. But here's my second thought about that. We are not salespeople from the perspective that I'm coming to sell you something. I'm coming to provide you with information, right? So if I'm providing you with information, I'm providing you with a service. I'm not asking you for money at the door. I'm not asking you to buy anything from me in particular. I'm providing you with information and I'm handing that information to you. I would say no differently than people come around the roofers, and I'm not sure if you guys get those same door knocks like we do. Hey, you just had a big storm and our company, we come out and do free roof inspections for you. So if you would like an assessment to know what your roof is like, let us know. We can come back and assess it for you. Is that considered soliciting? We got to do just a little bit more deep dive in there, because I have 2 trains of thought, if you can't tell, about that, because real estate is one of those things that you really have got to get out there in the trenches, and you've got to be bold, knowing what the allowances are and are not in those communities, and knowing what the information that you're providing is or is not doing. You're not saying, hey, can you give me a donation? Can you give me $5 towards, you know, some type of, you know, whatever? You're providing information. You're being a community resource. You're connecting the dots for people. You're giving them the opportunity to use you if they need you in the future or whatever the case is. But we can talk a little bit more about that. We'll get some more insight as to specifically what those fine lines are, and I'll leave it there for today. All right. So
Jasmine, let me can I just jump in here real quick?
Of course.
Okay. So you want to make sure that you follow any rules specifically that tell you to not door knock. But solicit actually means to go and ask for or try to obtain something from someone. Now, if you're going to give information, you're not asking for anything from anybody. All right, so that's one of the ways to think about it. So, like Jasmine said, when the sign says no soliciting, they're not talking to me. I'm going to give some information. I'm going to share some information. I'm going to let people know what's going on in their community. I'm coming to introduce myself, and then in doing so, I can have a conversation with the person once they invite me to have their conversation about, what benefits I have for them, what features, advantages, and benefits I could provide to them if they ever are interested in moving forward with real estate.
Excellent. Very well put. And those are my thoughts exactly, because sometimes we think things apply to us that don't. And I know I said it, I know Mr. Porter has said it, but what are you asking them for at the door? Are you asking them for money? Are you saying, hey, I want you to buy this vacuum cleaner? Hey, I need you to buy this Tupperware. Give me some money on the spot for this transaction. That's not what's happening. So certain things we take them in general and they don't apply to certain things, but just know whatever the community it is that you're in, pay attention to whatever those ordinances are there because they apply to us. But I don't want for us to restrict ourselves thinking that things restrict us that actually don't. All right. So that actually is the end of our time for today. I'm going to pause my screen share for now. I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear some of your thoughts, some of your insights, some of your key takeaway.
Jasmine, I just want to say something really quickly about I asked about the soliciting because I have a lot of people who ask that. It's one of the, I guess, either objection handling or things that I hear a lot as far as apartment complexes and things like that. And we've talked about different scenarios and different things, but I think that it shouldn't be something to discourage you from approaching those areas, especially in neighborhoods, because some of the homes say no soliciting on the door. So I might just change my approach when I go there. And like Shay said, I might just introduce myself. I'm not soliciting. I'm just saying, hey, I'm a local real estate agent, just saying hi. So you can change it up however you want to do it and not even approach them with any type of sales approach. So it's just a common question that I usually get.
It is definitely a common question, and I'm glad you put it in there. Thank you. And I really like how Angela said that you just adapt your approach however you need to, because you're not soliciting from that perspective. You are providing a resource to people, and people need your assistance. So, we can consider some things even when, you have candidates that are running for candidacy. I'm sure that they don't, avoid going to certain communities to knock on the door for the sake of solicitation. They're not selling you anything at the door. You know what I mean? They're offering you information. They're asking you, whatever the case is, that's a whole nother conversation. But I want for us to do what it is that our client hired us to do, market their property, build your book of business, and do so as an agent in the forefront, not being a secret agent sitting down in the background, nervous to go and door knock or do any of these things. Be bold, guys. Be courageous. You got into real estate for a reason. So let that shine forth with whatever you do, and people will see and they will say, oh, I see that. Oh, that's that Porterhouse girl, Darlene. She's diligent. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, when you guys go out and door knock, this is something like we talk about with everything, is seed time and harvest. So you're going to get leads when you go out to door knock. If you don't get a single client one day, I want you to continue to go back the next day. If you don't get a client the next day, go back the next day. If it takes you 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, a week, 7 days, 8, 10, whatever, continue to go back, because door knocking is a strategy that works, and it has worked always in real estate. And it's a numbers game. It is a numbers game, and NAR's statistics show that when you door knock, you have about a 2% kind of listing chance. So what does that mean? If you door knock 100 homes, then you should get 2 clients out of that, right? That 2 clients is going to happen when you continue in the face of those 98 that may not need your assistance at the moment. continue, be diligent, be consistent. Some people, they may give you a call back a week later, a month later, 3 months later, after you door knocked. And like Angela said, you just introduced yourself. You said, hey, I'm a resource. If you need anything, I'm here. Would you think about me for your real estate needs? I can provide you with whatever information you need. However that conversation goes, guys, we have scripts, in abundance in your brokerment libraries for you, for your door knocking, for your lead generation. Go in there and practice those scripts and embrace the process, because this is something that you definitely want to be committed to, no matter how many homes you have to go through in order to get the listing and to get the lead, because again, it is a numbers game. So embrace it, work together as a team, schedule your open houses in advance, have people there for multiple functions, door knock together, divide your leads however you guys decide, have multiple days worth of door knocking, go outside of the subdivision and go to some of these communities that we talked about, are strategic for people who need to move up, or strategic for people who need to downsize. Whatever lifestyle your listing provides, think about the demographic that will benefit most from that, and then target them and go and knock and put yourself before them, guys. Okay? Well, that is all I have for us today. We're about 5 minutes over time, and I honor your time, so I'm going to go ahead and stop. I know we have some dual career agents who will need to jump off. If that's the case, then you are released to do so. If anybody else has any other questions, key takeaway, insight, or anything, then I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
So I'm not sure whether we touched on this, but I would